Okay, now we wrap up with our second reading, which comes from Hebrews chapter 12, verses 5 through 7, and then we jump to verses 11 through 13. Brothers and sisters, you have forgotten the exhortation addressed to you as children. My son, do not disdain the discipline of the Lord, or lose heart when reproved by him. For whom the Lord loves, he disciplines. He scourges every son he acknowledges. Endure your trials as discipline. God treats you as sons. For what son is there whom his father does not discipline? At the time, all discipline seems a cause not for joy but for pain, yet later it brings the peaceful fruit of righteousness to those who are trained by it. So strengthen your drooping hands and your weak knees. Make straight paths for your feet, that what is lame may not be disjointed but healed. Okay, great. So this follows right off the heels of last week's second reading, from Hebrews 12, 1 through 4. We jump in at verse 5. So if you remember, the whole thing of so we're in this progressive scene where in chapter 11, you got the Hall of Faith. So all these people who by their faith did these incredible, crazy, miraculous things. And so then he says, last week, therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us keep our eyes fixed on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of our faith, who laid aside every weight and lay aside every weight of burden and sin that clings to us so that we can run the race. This whole image of running a race to the finish. And consider Jesus, who he despised the shame and yet embraced the cross. That whole image that he provides. So now he's saying, okay, so here's the deal. You've forgotten the exhortation. So this exhortation that he quotes, my son, do not disdain the discipline of the Lord or lose heart when reproved, etc. That's from Proverbs chapter 3. So in other words, the author is writing to a group of people who's like, you should know the scriptures. You've forgotten this. And it's like, I know there's so many scriptures to remember. And so let me remind you, do not disdain the discipline of the Lord. That word discipline, it can refer to punishment. It can also refer to instruction. That when the Lord sees us, just like any good parent, when you see your child doing something incorrectly or wrongly, what do? You correct him or her. And in that moment, it might feel like it says, in the moment, at the time, all discipline seems a cause not for joy, but for pain. Yet later it brings the peaceful fruit of righteousness to those who are trained by it. So when you have to correct a child for doing something, or if you have to correct anyone for that matter, if you're a boss and you have to correct your employee or a fellow family member or friend or whatever, anytime you have to correct someone, to them it seems like in the moment, like this grinding, like, oh, I wish you didn't say that to me or do that to me or teach me this. But down the road, if they actually learn from it and grow in maturity, then what happens? It allows for a training. And that training leads to, it says here, the peaceful fruit of righteousness. In maybe a more non-spiritual sense, it leads to maturity and growth overall. And so too for us, when we're talking about our faith in Jesus, or when we're talking about the discipline of the Lord, it is not a matter of the Lord looking to just get us, but it's a matter of him seeking to correct us. Because why? It says, endure your trials as discipline. God treats you as sons. As though the author is like, look, this is actually an incredible gift that the Lord is treating you as sons, as his own children. That's an incredible thing. If you were just a stranger, if he wasn't interested in you, he would let you keep going down the path of whatever, of wickedness, of destruction. He would let you go through the wide and easy road that leads to destruction. But as it is, he's treating you like his children. And so because of that, he's disciplining you, he's instructing you, he's training you. Sometimes he's punishing you so that you can become mature and you can be trained by his discipline. So anyways, it's just like this really maybe challenging, but also encouraging of like, no, don't forget that whenever you are disciplined by the Lord, instructed to change your life, to redirect yourself, whenever that happens, it is actually because God is treating you as his child, which is an incredible gift. Just like I use that image of like the gate doesn't have to be in the wall. The Lord comes and he opens the gate so that we can walk through. Now, we have to put forth effort as we walk through. He says this. And we can look at that like demand to put forth effort, and we could see it as like, oh, you're so demanding. When he would say from his perspective, like, I didn't have to open it. I'm opening it because I want you to walk through. So too, again, we can sometimes look at the trials, the difficulties of life, or just like the challenge of following the gospel. We can look at that and be like, gosh, that is so demanding. when really the Lord could say, I didn't have to come and teach you, but I want you. I want you to be my child, and I don't want you to be a spoiled child, but instead I want you to be one who's been trained, who's grown in maturity. So the author is laying out this really great thing. In fact, in verse 8, so we don't read verse 8, but he says this, that if you're without discipline, you're not seen as a legitimate child. Again, it's that same thought. If we were just strangers, like no parent or a parent who sees a kid misbehaving that's not his own or her own is much more hesitant, or even is just like, well, that's not my kid. So it's like that's not how the Lord treats us. He's like, no, that is my kid, and so I want my kid to be well behaved. I want my kid to be mature and disciplined, because I want him to share life with me in peacefulness and righteousness. It's an incredible invitation. And so the author then finishes this little section by saying, okay, so here's the deal. Let's go back to that race image. So strengthen your drooping hands and your weak knees. Make straight paths for your feet, that what is lame may not be disjointed but healed. And this image of if you're running for a long time and you're just really tired, you've been sprinting or it's a long distance run, and you're just like at the end, you're just like crouched over, you're just like breathing hard. It's just like, and so the author's like, no, here's the deal. Strengthen your drooping hands and your weak knees. Make straight paths for the Lord. Don't be wandering all over the place because you're exhausted. Instead, let the discipline of the Lord actually be something that strengthens you and builds up endurance within you. Endure your trials as discipline. This is actually an image of something seen in Isaiah 35, where again the prophet is talking about the Lord's salvation, and how for those who receive the Lord's salvation, they need to do similar things to strengthen their drooping hands and their weak knees, so that they can be ready to receive what the Lord has for them. Gosh, what a great, I love Hebrews 12. It's a gift. The whole thing is a gift. The whole scripture is a gift. It's all my favorite. But if I had to pick a favorite, Hebrews 12 might be actually it. But I love it all. I love it. Anyway, what a gift. I'm so glad to share this with you and to be with you every week, week after week. I always look forward to this, and I do, in fact, look forward to seeing you next week.